2023 is called to order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 is roll call.
Roll call. Roll call, Mr. Frederick.
Here.
Mr. Glovfelty.
Here.
Mr. McAnally.
Here.
Mr. Long. Here. Ms. Roscoe.
Here.
Ms. Jemison.
Here.
Mr. Crover.
Here.
Bubade is here. And Chair Freitag.
Here. Item 3 is approval of the agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair. Support.
Motion from Mr. Frederick, supported by Mr. Gladfelty, to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Gladfelty?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Grova?
Yes.
Mr. Bobade?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Jemison?
Yes.
Mr. McAnally?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, the agenda is approved. Item 4 will be approval of the minutes of the regular, Planning Commission meeting held on June 19th, 2023.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Support.
I have a motion from Mr. Krova, supported by Mr. Long, to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Mr. Krova?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. McAnally?
Yes.
Mr. Bovade?
Yes.
Mr. Gladfelty?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, the minutes are approved. Item 5, excuse me. Comments from the public on non-agenda items. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on anything that's not on our agenda tonight? We'll skip that and move on. 6 is public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. 7 is old business. 8 is new business. First we have is SPR 2022017, Romulus Self-Storage, requesting approval of a 56,178 square foot, 483 unit self-storage facility at 37270 North Line Road. Petitioner is here.
Good evening.
We need your name and address for the record.
Kate Bond with Midwestern Consulting. Is this me?
Go ahead.
Excuse my ruffling noise on the recorder. This is my... Thank you for having us on the agenda this evening. As I mentioned, my name is Kate Bond. I'm with Midwestern Consulting. Here with me this evening is the architect Mike Lowe with Design House and the applicants MRE Ventures, Mark Roberts, Eric Redland, and Ronnie Hamama. I'd like to start by talking about the existing conditions on the property. This is a unique and challenging site, to say the least. I think not only if it were with our proposed use, the self-storage facility, but probably for any development going on the site. As you can see, we have frontage on I-275 to the north and on North Line Road to the south. This is an approximately 5-acre property, just over 5 acres, with the double frontage, as I mentioned, and 70 to 80% of the property is wooded, with the remainder of it being a grassy area towards the front. There is a wooded wetland in the northeast corner, obviously wooded, so you can't even see it in the aerial photo. The property drains from southwest to northeast and towards that wooded wetland, and then further off the site in what I would liken to the I-275 sort of drainage corridor on the south side of that eastbound lane. And then you can see along the North Line Road within the right-of-way there, the I-275 bike trail. On the east side, there is a significant paved area with outdoor vehicle storage, et cetera, but largely on the west side, still wooded on our westerly property line. Moving to our proposed conditions and the proposed site plan. The proposal is for a mix of 483 climate-controlled and non-climate self-storage units within 7 buildings oriented north to south across the property, with a minimum of 30 feet between. There's one single entrance to the property, a gated entrance, and in Building 3, towards the southeast corner of that building, is the only office portion. That's the leasing office for the entire development. It is staffed with proposed to be staffed with 1 employee. Drainage on the property is such that I explained going from southwest to northeast, so we proposed our stormwater management system, both a detention basin and a BMP, to its west in that area. The property is relatively flat. There's not a significant grade on the property itself. So we did try to maintain as much slope as we could on the site in order to get that the impervious surfaces to drain towards our stormwater management area and reduce the amount of underground conveyance system as best we could. So the BMP to the north of buildings 3, 4, and 5, we did take advantage of the ability to take surface flow into that BMP and then take that to our detention basin to its east. That detention basin will outlet to existing 12-inch storm sewer in North Line Road. The property itself is able to be serviced by utilities in the North Line right-of-way, sanitary, water, and as I mentioned, the 12-inch storm sewer. With the double frontage and with this proposed use, the setbacks on this property are fairly large at 60 foot for a front setback on both the north side and the south side. That does provide some, through design development, provided some significant challenges to us, but as you can see with the layout in front of you, we did work with that fairly easily in terms of the building orientation. Our setbacks on the sides, also larger than a typical use for this zoning district, is at 15 feet on the east and the west. So we have accomplished that. The double frontage also requires significant screening along with the proposed use of a self-storage facility. You can see along North Line Road in our rendering here that we have provided a significant amount of proposed vegetation to provide the adequate screening along North Line Road. That is done also in company with a berm, a proposed berm on site, so that within that setback area. The vegetation on the property in this screened area includes a mix of vegetation type to increase the amount of screening. So we have proposed evergreens, proposed deciduous trees at varying heights, ornamental trees, understory trees, large shrubs, small shrubs. So we've got something to screen in every season, and also through different textures, different heights, and it's a layered effect. So we did take great care in providing a very significant screening feature in the front. Let's see. So I'm going to walk you through our site plan development, through the design development. We worked extensively with the Application Review Committee to overcome a lot of the challenges that both the site and the design constraints that were placed in front of us. We did have a lot of submittals and review comments returned to us. But I think that we successfully went through each one of those and provided that team with a responsive set of plans to be able to get in front of you tonight. Some of the things that we were able to accomplish, we have parking, building setbacks, and architectural components that we resolved throughout the course of those review and response. We have fire access and circulation with access between the buildings at 30-foot minimum. We did take into consideration overhangs and the building footprint itself. We have circulation that is one way to allow for lack of confusion on the site in terms of which is the best way to go in. That will be striped or arrows provided on the drive aisles. We have worked out all of the fencing around the property and what type of fencing that's going to be. We not only have to fence the use itself because it is a self-storage facility, and it has to be gated to a certain type of gate so that not only the tenants or the users can access it, the owners can access it, but emergency personnel can access as well, and we've been able to accomplish all of that. In addition, internally, the stormwater management system has to be fenced as well. So we do have sort of a double ring system that is towards the back of the site around the detention facility. I've already gone through the landscape screening and how we had taken great care in accomplishing that along the front. We did have tree mitigation to resolve, which we were able to take care of on site. The use regulations and site requirements that came up throughout the review process for the type of storage that would be allowed or not allowed, what could be stored within each of the spaces. All of those types of things were worked out through the design development process and are notated in the site plans. But even as we worked through all of those items, there were a few that kind of trickled through and stayed with us and are now, we have to ask for waivers or variances for those. As we developed what those were, we did receive support from the planning, engineering consultant, et cetera. I'll walk through these, the waivers first. First and foremost, and from the very beginning, was that we were proposing no dumpster on site. That is something that is fairly routine for this type of industry. Providing a dumpster in a self-storage facility pretty much says to every tenant there that every time they want to throw out a couch, you take it to the storage facility and throw out the couch in the dumpster there and not have to worry about getting rid of it at home or anything else, any other garbage. So it becomes kind of a collection facility. In order to avoid that and keep control of what the tenants are able to throw out or not throw out, the garbage system proposed is only within the office building, and it will be a rollout situation working with weekly pickup on that route. So there is no dumpster. The detention in the front setback, with the low point of the site in the northeast area, detention was likely to be in that area. So we have routed, I explained that system and how it drains and where it outlets. We have a double frontage scenario here where it's highly likely that in order to either drain to the low point or discharge to the existing 12-inch storm sewer in North Line Road, we would either have to be likely in the front setback or the other front setback. So you can see on the diagram there where I've highlighted blue, a very small corner of the detention basin is in the I-275 setback, and the BMP to its left, a bioretention facility, is also, that portion of the blue is located in the front setback. We have received support from OHM to proceed forward with that waiver. The architectural components, we have successfully achieved all of the building materials, height, everything related to the type of building and what we're going to propose there, except for on the south elevation of Building 3. We did not achieve 50% masonry. You can see in the image in the lower left-hand corner there that in that building, that's the office building. And it is primarily metal siding in that area and does not necessarily meet that masonry component. But I think the design of the facility was such that that was deemed acceptable if we could receive a waiver for that. Moving forward with the variances that we have left to take care of with regard to site planning, we have, I mentioned where the fences are located on the property. We have to fence because of the use, and we have to fence because of the detention basin. The fence in the front, in both front setbacks, I've identified by sort of an orange indication on what the dimensions are. It is as close as 19 feet along 275 to our property line, and the fence is at 55.5 feet along North Line Road instead of 60 feet in both locations. It is that way along North Line so that we can avoid the overhang of a fire truck or other trucks that go through the site so that the truck doesn't hit the fence. So we have a little bit of overhang there. The fence itself, where it's located, will not likely be seen because of the extensive screening of vegetation that we have in the front along North Line Road. So even though it is within the front setback, it's not likely to be seen as the vegetation matures. In the back, that is sort of a unique situation. I've not discussed in depth yet, will in the next couple of slides, the vertical difference, change in elevation between I-275 and the site. The fence being in the front setback of the 275 frontage, it is there, the fence is there because of the detention basin. And we are required to fence the detention basin, and it sort of is in keeping with the waiver request for the detention basin to be in the front setback. If it is in the front setback, we have to fence the detention basin. So sort of the chicken and the egg kind of scenario here. So those are the items that we have sort of carried forward to discuss with you this evening. I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the more significant challenges and make sure that there's a good understanding of what the people surrounding the site are going to see from a vehicular standpoint, walking. I mentioned the I-275 bike trail along the front of North Line. And the 275, that top cross-section is indicative of what amounts to a 34-foot vertical grade change between where a vehicle would be on 275 going roughly 70 miles an hour down to our site 34 feet below, and you're gazing over at the top of this development. There really is no screening that we can propose that is ever going to get to the height or achieve a screening potential that may meet the letter of the law of the ordinance. The intent has been accomplished through a significant amount of existing vegetation along there. We have on top of the existing vegetation along the 275 corridor, we have proposed additional vegetation on that side of the property. You can see in the cross-section, excuse me, between the buildings, around the detention basin, around the BMP, et cetera. And then that's where all of our mitigation trees were planted. The cross-section below is from North Line through the proposed vegetative screening. And what's important to point out here is that from the perspective of a driver on North Line, the berm and the vegetation, although when it's planted, obviously is not mature. It's, an evergreen tree is likely going to be 6 feet tall at best, 7 foot, depends on what they can get at planting time. But on top of that is the berm that we're proposing that in some locations is 5 feet tall. So you have maybe 6 foot of evergreen, 5 foot of berm, so you've got a good start. But at maturity, that whole frontage is going to be very well screened, and we wanted to be able to show you what that what the view is characterized by these cross sections. This is an artist rendering of that view from 275. Like I said, an artist rendering, but want to be able to show you what it is that someone driving along 275 is going to be looking at. I mentioned it's not going to be possible to plant anything on the property to be able to effectively screen those buildings. Excuse me. But there is a significant amount of existing vegetation already there, supplemented with what we're proposing. And then this is another artist rendering this is from the east side of the site. You see the bike trail, 275 bike trail, the North Line Road all the way to the left. The proposed vegetation at maturity, so you can see, because I think it's only fair to show what it will look like eventually. And the proposed buildings are really dwarfed behind it. So it is significantly screened. So I need a drink of water now. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I have expressed that we have worked diligently with your consultants and planning staff, but we're willing to continue working with them or with you. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer and resolve any of the other smaller items that still remain.
Thank you. Lose my voice. Do you have any questions or comments before we open to the commissioners?
In regards to the comments that we do have in the letter, the majority of them are clarification comments and, sorry. In regards to the comments that we have in the letter, the majority of them are clarification comments and can be easily addressed administratively. The one comment in regards to still the turning movements on Building 7 and 4, having talked with the chief multiple times in the emergency access and the maneuverability of the fire truck, there still needs to be some sort of concession at the corner, the southwest corner of buildings 4 and 7. And that may come in the form of moving the fence, widening that section of road, or changing the outline of the building in that area. So that's one discussion point that needs to be clarified tonight.
Is that it? Mm-hmm. Carol, any? No? No comments? Okay. I'll open it up to commissioners.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Just a comment to clarify.
Comment.
What about the two-way lanes when they're under 20 feet in width?
So the north, effectively, the north and the south lanes are one way. The two-way is only going to occur in between the drive access points for the units. So someone could come in off of North Line and drive up and then decide to turn right or left, and then they will be able to circulate through multiple multiple building areas. So we are comfortable with the one-way around everywhere around the exterior of the site and the two-way within the interior of the units is sufficient as well.
Okay, what I see up here on the screen is different than what I see on my drawings, so I'm only going by what I had for my drawings.
Which page are you looking at on your drawing?
I'm on 4. It's got two ways at that end, two-way arrows.
I submitted those two sheets after.
Yeah,
After the
they,
packets went out. See, we got your packets a little early this time.
Friday's not early.
We're going back to Friday, Mike.
Go back to Monday.
Okay, that answers my question.
Okay. Ms. Gladfelder?
I want to make a comment about the dumpster. I'm not comfortable with that. We have a facility like that in our town already. When then people get ready to move out, they got to do something with the garbage. I get what you're saying, I understand that. But what is going to happen with all these mattresses and couches? Because you're going to have to have some way to get it picked up.
Right. The intent is that, and I don't know the specific rules within the agreement that someone would sign. And Ronnie, I would ask if you want clarification on that. If someone leaves something behind, obviously it's the owners that have to take care of it. I think the intent is that whatever garbage or anything that they're moving out, they take with them.
But we all know that's not going to work.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'd like to speak on this.
To the microphone,
Come to the
please.
microphone, please.
So in regards to the dumpster, yes, people move out, but they are responsible for moving everything out. And it does happen when people leave their stuff. And it's up to the owners to clean it out, but at the same time, they leave a security deposit up front, $50, $100, and they get it back at move out. So that prevents any garbage being left over or needing to be thrown out or anything like that. It's a wide practice in the industry not to have a dumpster. If the one that you know of has had it and had it for a long time, then, you know, and it's honestly, every business can do whatever they need, you know, what they want to do. If they feel like they need to have a dumpster, then, you know, and it suits them, then that works for them. But for the majority of the facilities, you know, you could talk to any owner, go on any online forum, and, you know, it's pretty much no dumpsters at any storage facilities because of that reason. You know, as a storage owner, you know, I have a little vested interest in keeping junk inside the unit. We don't want the tenant to feel like, okay, well, here's an exit. We'll just throw away what we don't want in their dumpster, and now we have a way out, and now the owner of the dumpster has to pay an extra fee to call that dumpster truck. Hey, come out, I got a full dumpster here. I got to pay you $200 to come and do it, and my tenant's gone. And so if you could understand how that is, that's pretty much the whole idea of that.
I'm still not comfortable with it, but I have one more question on who needs to answer it. My other question is, at this point, are you planning on having any rental trucks for rental there? Rental trucks or trailers?
Rental trucks, at this point, we don't. Yeah, we don't have room, so.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I don't see room for the fire truck now barely to get around there.
Yeah, it's actually not in the plans, so.
And the final comment I got, this is Michigan, and I'm worried about pushing snow.
Absolutely. So snow gets pushed out towards the swale to the north of the property, and that's how it works. We basically push it out as far as possible to get it out of the way from driving circulation.
There are indications on the northern portion along the edge of the northern outermost aisle where snow is, we've got snow storage areas identified on the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Frederick?
Yeah, I have a few questions for the petitioner and to the city. To the petitioner, explain climatized storage, please.
Ronnie or Mark?
Sure. So climatized storage is not what you think, where you would have air conditioning and heat like you would have in a residence or a commercial building. Basically, the whole idea of climate control is to keep it above freezing and to circulate the air in the summertime. And that's it. It pretty much doesn't go any warmer than 60 degrees in the, in a freezing cold. So we basically have a heater, whether it be a radiant or forced air, but there will not be any air conditioning.
Well, the reason I ask that is, I see where some buildings are climatized and some are non-climatized, but I didn't see anywhere on the plans where there's a mechanical room for like your HVAC.
We could put we actually talked about this, and HVAC unit was probably just going to be inside one of those units, small units on either side. So, I mean, I'm not a mechanical guy, so a mechanical guy would give him the plans and he would figure it out, but from my opinion, we would probably choose the smallest unit on each end of the building and put our mechanicals there. Of course, whatever, it would be up to code, and again, I'm not a mechanical, bless you, I'm not a mechanical person, so I wouldn't know. If it's a radiant, yeah, well, we can hang it if it's, yes, Mark is right. We could also hang it, since it's also a hallway, because of the interior of the building is going to be insulated, so we can hang these furnaces just from the ceiling. Just have a hang system with forced air, if that's what we're going to use, or whether it be radiant heat, also hang from the ceiling.
Like I said, I was just curious because it wasn't spelled out on the plans.
Yeah, I think we just never really got too far into it.
So is there sprinkler systems in these buildings?
No.
No sprinkler systems?
No sprinkler systems. And
All right.
I believe it's, but I think we are moving forward on that.
There's no sprinkler systems, but there are hydrants, proposed hydrants on the property, and a looping water main to service those. So we have coverage, adequate coverage from a hydrant perspective.
Gotcha. Okay, so to the petitioner again. So what's the protocol for abandoned or foreclosed units getting cleaned out? We kind of touched on that a little bit, but would there be any auctions of units on site?
Auctions?
Yes.
You should just stand up here with me.
So auctions work like this. Normally, depending on the volume of auctions, ideally we'd like to have at least the least amount of auctions possible. So, but when there will be an auction, we will basically schedule it. We would have to publicize it, and yeah, we would hold a little auction on site, just like how you see on the TV shows.
Right. Well, that's what brought the question up. Now, I was wondering about the volume of people that would show up for, say, an auction, as far as your circulation plan.
Sure. So by law, we have to circulate these advertised.
No, I mean, as
sale.
far as your
Parking and
car circulation.
Parking.
Your other customers who aren't affected by the auction.
Yes.
I mean, how many people are we talking here, like, at the general auction?
It's very, honestly, in my experience, it's very little. You really don't get much traffic in there. If you do, you're gonna fill up the office area, but if anybody needs to expand on that, then we have plenty of parking for them. As far as parking, it's not an issue. We could open up the gate on auction days and have people park all along the building if we need to. I mean, if we don't know how much traffic we're gonna get, so we can't really,
Right.
my experience might be very little traffic, but, this facility might bring more traffic.
I was
Are
just
the auctions
concerned-
online?
Are they in person or are they online?
Well, we have the option of putting them online or have them on person, but ideally we'd have them in person.
Well, my concern was that you're going to see cars parking on the bike trail or North
Right.
Line,
Right.
and then hoofing it in.
Well, we would have to control the parking at those events. So obviously, we would not let anybody park along the road, North Line, or anywhere they're not supposed to. Because we'll have tenants coming in on a regular basis. Also, we need to make sure that they are served.
All right, so the second part of that question is to the city. Will there be permits required for auctions?
If we were just talking about that, probably a
Yeah,
temporary use.
temporary use to do the auction
Yeah. We're
for a
gonna wanna see
specific
that.
time.
Yeah.
All right, that was just something I was just thinking about. Let's see here. I know we already talked about Chief Allison's report, climatized storage. So the non-compliance with the tree woodland preservation ordinance, what can be done about that? Like, maybe not on that site, but maybe somewhere else?
They are, yeah, so what they're doing is, they're taking some of them, they're not in compliance, but they're doing replacement. So they meet the requirement, they just need to put the total number on the plant schedule.
Okay, so
So
the city's
they're doing,
satisfied.
so that's what, when you don't comply, you replace. So our ordinance is a preservation ordinance, so you have to preserve 10%. If you're not preserving 10%, you replace that difference.
Okay.
So, and that's what they're replacing, they're doing 21 replacement trees
Okay.
that they're putting around the detention pond.
Could
Okay.
I
Well, thank you
point
very much.
out on sheet 8, we added a column on the plant schedule for mitigation, and that's what that's referring to. So the 21 that we were required to mitigate on site is accounted for and indicated on the plan.
All right.
I
Thank
think
you very
it
much.
was just something with the number. I think you had it on there. One of the numbers didn't get updated or something, I'll find it. Yeah, I'll find it. So are we resolved on the circulation?
We have not. I think you were offered up 3 options,
I did, yep.
but is it going to be a combination of them? Because there's like a, what, 3/4 of an inch on, no, 3.07, and then around the front there's 0.75.
I think that's feet.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
9
and That's from
inches.
the overhang, I believe.
Oh, 3 feet. Okay, so those are okay. I just figure somebody's going to tear off a side of a building at some point. So around front, even if they move the fence, do they have property space to move the fence out?
They are already requesting a variance for the fence placement location, and what we had stated is that one of the items could be the fence could be moved further out, and the variance request could be increased. The real issue is that the bollards, the fence, and the overhang all are pinch points, and when you put all of them together, you're asking the fire truck to be absolutely perfect and maneuver through that area. So where we had asked for a minimum of 9 inches from the overhang, that wasn't, the bollards weren't shown on the plans at that point. Now we have less than 6 inches from some of the bollards. So we are asking for the applicant to reimagine or revise the area between 4 and 7, building 4 and 7, in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, can't you just like bevel the corner? You know? kinda
That's
what
a
I-
possibility. The other item is that the template that they're using is longer than, when we scale it at least, it's longer than the required template by the fire department. If they use the right template, there might be some additional clearance, but all of that needs to be,
I guess, how does that relate to the real fire truck we have? Which one's closer to what we actually are going to show up in?
that I can't answer as to which one's the closest and which one would show up, but the one that Chief Allison asks, it's in the site plan packet.
His comments? In
Oh,
his-
The template of the fire truck that
Oh,
that they
okay.
ask, it's not your largest, it is the most frequent used. The template of that is in the site plan application.
Okay. I
And
just-
it's on their sheet, it's just, isn't it? Just that it's not that that's on the drawing.
It's not that on the drawing, correct?
Yeah, so even though the detail's there.
So there does need to be some concessions at Building 4 and Building 7 still.
Is it, can I make a comment to that? There's a component on this drawing that I realized, now that we're talking about it, I neglected to talk about. That last item, drive aisle in the front setback, that yellow whole stripe there is what we're sort of, one of the options that is being discussed. If we were to pursue that route, the way that it's drawn right now, it would mean that the pavement, the edge of asphalt, would be at what is currently shown as the back of curb. So in the proposal, we would take the curb 2 feet and bring it forward towards North Line Road. All of that can be accommodated, and then I imagine the fence would move with it, just for conversation purposes right now. When we go through and we see that everything is accommodated, if the fence doesn't have to move, we wouldn't move it. If it does need to move, it would move that same proportion. And that's what I'm trying to articulate in what's shown there. So that could alleviate a good portion of the issues that are still on the table. And then if we shorten the truck, as mentioned, that could free up some space as well. So we've been asked to provide 9 inches. And when we do that, we need to know then moving forward, is 9 enough? Or do we need to accommodate something else? So if we can accommodate the 9 inches and the additional 2 feet, that seems to be a reasonable solution that I think we discussed prior to the meeting, tonight's meeting. That would help us move forward. So I think that would loosen things up.
If I may, through the chair.
Go ahead.
So we do not have final say on this. We, as OHM, the chief, and the fire department would still have final say. Through conversations with him, he was in agreement that if they showed the circulation was solved by adding 2 foot of pavement and moving the fence out, he was in agreement with that. So that's the best I can do. I don't have final say on whether or not he's going to accept it.
But that would give us a point, a jumping off point for further evaluation by administration
Yes. Right.
to allow us to include that as part of our approval.
And I will state that the buildings 1, 2, and 3, we don't necessarily need to see a 22-foot lane over in that area. We don't have the same issues. So the 22-foot lane could be just between the gate and the end of the aisle by building 7. Where the yellow is showing all the way across. And basically, it would take maybe a third of it out.
Right, it doesn't get you out of the curving out of those other, let's say, building 5, turning out of there, or building 6. I mean, it gets you out of the building 7 corner, right? The
Yeah.
curve. But you're still gonna have concerns making those turns. Well,
Well, you have, if the pavement is moved to the south, you have more landing area. So the truck wouldn't have to be so accurate when it made its left turn.
Gotcha.
So they have more pavement to work with.
okay, I understand that.
I mean, if you look at, but if you look at the dash lines, that's the wheel path, and the solid lines are the overhang. And the wheel path does come right up against the curb face in a couple areas along the south side of those buildings, and then also to the west of building number 7. And the overhang comes very close to the fence. I believe I measured a couple of these at 8 inches, and then at the bollards, we were at 6 inches, especially the bollard at building number 5. So just the ability to have more room to navigate would give us some more comfort with the design.
It's very difficult to revise a site plan during a meeting
Yes.
like this. Okay, it's fine.
Anything else? Any other questions? Ms. Jamison?
Yeah, just through the chair, just a comment from my colleagues. So I have my sister actually is a manager, self-storage unit, and she's at her 4th one now. So just from being at her job and seeing how things work, I kind of agree. Dumpsters are not the way you want to go because people will dump. They'll actually bring trash from their homes. Like if they missed their trash pickup and they got, let's say, smelly food, they'll bring it to the dumpster and dump it. I've seen it. So when they leave, they're supposed to, and I don't know, Carol, if that's an option that requires them to have something in their contract that says they have to have a higher deposit or whatever it's going to cost to clean it out, because people sometimes leave things in their units. I know at my sister's place, they have a higher deposit, but they also have a credit card they must have on record. So if they leave and she checks and sees that they've left stuff, they put a freeze on their credit card or whatever amount that is. They have a guy that they hire to clean it out, and they just bill them for it. But that's part of her job. She goes through every day, every morning, to check the units, to check the locks, to see if there's locks there, if there's locks gone, and opens them up. And if there's trash in there, because people do, they don't want to take something, so they leave it. But if they had a dumpster, it would turn out that they would be dumping it in a dumpster. This way, they'd have no way of knowing who dumped it, so then it becomes an expense to them to constantly empty that dumpster. But if they are forced to leave it in the units, then you can tag who did it, then you can get their credit card and charge it, and when they come calling and crying and complaining because now their credit card's been charged, at least it's not an expense to them, and the people who did the dumping, they're actually being held accountable. So over the years, I've just heard my sister, and I've seen it because I went to her job, but that's my experience, and just from watching her over the years, I actually think that a dumpster is a bad idea. Actually, a dumpster that's at any building as a realtor that's not monitored and not locked is not a good idea. We have buildings here in Romulus that are vacant. They have dumpsters, and you should see the stuff that people just randomly dump in there. And then who's going to be stuck with that, right? The owner of a vacant building, and so now it's a greater expense to them because it's not locked. So that's just my 2 cents, but.
They got to control it. I'll be curious to see how it works.
They don't have any problems. Like I said, she's at her 4th unit, and the one she's at now, she actually lives there. She lives upstairs, so she's always there. But that's their process. But that's how the company runs it. And the company that she's with, they own storage units across the U.S., so they're a franchise company, and they have certain things set in place. That's why I mentioned to Carol, if there's something that we can do that requires them in their contracts with their people, that requires a larger deposit and or a credit card with a certain amount on hold, so that if they do dump, because you're going to catch them, then they have to pay for it. But having a dumpster, you won't be able to tell who did it. So, but that's about
That may
that.
be something you guys can add to your site plan, a little bit more detail on your operations to go with that, what you can do. I mean, do you guys?
I don't think that would be a problem to include on our sheet 11 or 12. We have been adding to the use restrictions, all the kind of regulations associated with the site.
Good.
Mr. Long?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. And then to elaborate more on the security cameras and a locking fence or a locking gate for the trash receptacle, or would that be an option for you too? I mean, you could use that, like Ms. Jamison said, credit card deposit or whatever. But that right there, I'm with Mr. Goldfelty on the dumpster. I'm on the fence on it, and I understand the dilemma that you face with people dumping, but, that's our city ordinance, per se, to have dumpsters on these sites. And that right there, security cameras and a locking dumpster gate would probably help that situation.
Sure. Security system, that's an absolute no given. We're gonna have, you know, state-of-the-art security there. And that's for peace of mind, that's to, you know, protect the property, as any commercial property should, in any jurisdiction. As far as the dumpster, I'd like to argue that having a dumpster, whether it would be locked or open, is going to create more of an eyesore from the road or from 275, if they can see it, having garbage on the side. I believe even with security cameras, if a tenant is going to leave that facility, they don't care if they're on camera or not. They're done. They're not a tenant anymore. They're going to leave their mattress, their old couch, leaning against that locked dumpster gate, waiting for us to deal with it, or whoever's managing the property. That's my strong opinion, and I really believe that.
Understandable. And to elaborate more on the property side, maintenance, will you be contracting that out, or will it be maintained by the manager to keep the weeds down and
As far as killing the weeds down and landscaping, we would hire that out. We would contract it to a third party, a landscaping company who's reputable and does a good job in keeping the you know, the road frontage, north line, keeping it nice and pretty. As far as the maintenance of the facility, that would be the manager's job. Cleaning up, sweeping up, keeping it clean. We believe that having a clean facility adds to the success of this operation. So yeah, as far as the maintenance goes, that'll be in-house.
And another thing too, with the bike trail being pertinent to your location, is it any way you could have some type of monitor there where light flashes or something when people are entering in and out of there with vehicles to warn those bikers that are coming back and forth on the bike trail?
As part of the review process, and I'm not going to recall his name off the top of my head, we were requested to provide signage at the entrance at the crossing for the bike trail, and we have done that. It's probably not visible from this scale of a drawing, but on our site plan, we do have signage both ways, and then for the bike trail and for vehicular traffic. And that's what was requested by...
The police department.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Grova, are you done?
Yep.
Mr. Long? Are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Grova?
Through the chair, I have a question for petitioner. You did mention a little bit about the climate-controlled units, and then there's non-climate-controlled units. How are you going to prevent people from, it's going to be a high-traffic area, people moving stuff in and out, and in the middle of the winter months, when you have snow on the ground, those floors are going to become slippery in there. What do you do to prevent the slip and fall hazards?
The hallway floors will be, it'll be a very porous concrete, and if it would be sealed, but we would make sure that it's a non-slippery type deal. And if it's rainy and wet out there, then all we could do is put caution signs up. There's nothing we can do to prevent a slip and fall. I mean, all I can tell you is we're going to keep the floors as non-slippery as possible.
You have other units that are non-climate controlled that do have inner corridors?
No. The non-climate controlled units all have exterior entry only.
But it looked like in your site plans, some of your non-climate controlled do have inner corridors.
No, so,
Oh, I take that.
Can you just get to that one? I just want to zoom in.
Sure. This might be the best drawing, Ronnie.
So I'm guessing you're referring to these outer units here. These outer units will not have any insulation. So the squares that are inside the building, that are next to the hallway, those are the only climate controlled units
Okay, so
inside that building. The outer units are non-climate.
Okay, I understand. That answers my question. I thought the inner corridors were not going to be heated.
No, and the reason the outside is because you just can't seal a garage door.
And then also in reference to building 6 and 7 on the southern portion where the fire trucks are not clearing, was it ever considered to possibly eliminate 1 or 2 of those units on the corner of that building? That would ease up probably the radius.
Yes.
I know on the north part of your buildings, it looks like they jog in.
So we have, throughout the course of the design development, we have part of that jogging in and out has been a result of dropping units. I think, because I'm intimately familiar with the site plan, that the accommodations we've been discussing, the addition of 2 feet of pavement will alleviate that. So if we have 6 to 9 inches currently, the addition of 2 feet of pavement will provide that additional 2 feet.
Okay.
So I personally, as an advocate, and advise my clients to try that first and then go to dropping units. But I'd like to pursue that option, I think, with their support.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, question for the petitioner. Is this your first self-storage unit that you've owned or built or operated?
No, it's not. I currently own a facility. I've built, general contracted this one, and it was opened in 2014. We expanded a couple times, and I have been a developer in other facilities that I've kind of designed. I'm very familiar with the industry, so I've got at least 10 years experience of developing, owning, operating self-storage facilities.
So Carol, one other item that we might want to have considered to be in their plans is that they monitor and make sure that people aren't using it as a second home and sleeping overnight. That has been a problem at some other storage units. They actually have people that have posted on TikTok and other places how they've made their storage unit into a bedroom. So it's a real thing. I don't know if you've experienced
I think we talked about
that.
that very early on, and I think you guys had commented, something about management checks them, and you guys can answer it. I know it came up early because it has been talked about. And the other aspect of that was storing things in there that, are not good. And there are some notes about the hazardous stuff, but there's illegal storage and all that good stuff too, so.
Thank you.
So as far as somebody living there and staying there overnight, I think we should be able to catch them pretty easy. I think that's a rare, I personally have never heard of it besides TV. If that is a real thing, I guess it could be better in some apartments.
Yeah, my sister actually caught 2 people within this past year.
Okay.
Yeah, one, because they have trailers and vehicles on their site and boats.
Okay.
So one guy was sleeping in the trailer, which was not his, and the other guy was actually sleeping in his unit because they got to watch the time frames of when they were signing in and signing out, so they would go right before it was time to close because it does, you can't get in the gate after a certain time. So they would go in right before that and just not come out.
Wow.
And so that's how she discovered that they were sleeping. So, and I think one of the other tenants or customers had mentioned that there was always this one particular guy around this one unit that was not his, as far as the, I think it was a trailer unit that they had over there.
So we just have to stay really vigilant and, invest in some good security system where it would trigger at night or, I guess if somebody really wants to try hard to really, sleep there, just have to be vigilant, I guess.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? excuse me, they're asking for waivers on this. Are we in agreement with the waivers? The first one would be detention pond in the I-275 front yard.
Yes, that one, Jessica, you addressed that in your letter, don't you? Yes, yep. If you look on the OHM letter, the first page, we can get some of these on the record.
Oh, the variances waivers. Okay. Okay, I see.
Through the chair, do you want me to run through the reasoning in our letter, or are you okay?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Well, for the record, I think you want for the record,
Oh,
it
yes.
shows that OHM has
Right. Just
Yes.
given
acknowledge what the
support
findings-
to all three of those waivers.
Right.
Right, okay.
Per their engineering letter
Right.
dated July 7th.
You're deferring. Yep, the one that you're deferring, you guys talked quite a bit about.
So
The
we
dumpster.
deferred our recommendation on the dumpster to the other departments within the ARC committee. But in regards to the fences, screen walls, and the placement of the detention basin.
Madam Chairman, just one comment on dumpster.
Mr. McNally?
I've sat out in the back parking lot of the Romulus Athletic Center on a Sunday morning at 8:30 after I worked out and watched 2 carloads of people back up to the Rack's dumpster and empty everything in their cars into the dumpster and drive off. You give them a receptacle, it's my opinion, they'll use it. I don't care what you try to do, somebody will find a way to throw stuff in there. If you don't generate your own internal trash enough to warrant a dumpster, in my opinion, I'm not sure we should require you to have one. But that's, again, I'm just one of 9 here.
I'd like to add something. I can understand the dumpster, why you wouldn't want to have one, but then you're requesting to have curbside pickup rather than a dumpster. I don't know if there's a lot of people on that street to have curbside pickup, so what would there be an option of you would have to remove your own trash, which you're saying you don't generate a lot of trash? Can you just remove your own trash?
Well, I don't think, we don't have a residence on there, so it's just gonna be some office trash. I mean, I don't see any more than a little bit of trash from the bathroom and some office trash. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to call like a waste management company to come in and pay them quarterly, like a residence, and come out and do a side pickup with a little roll-off container.
Because what I've seen is when they do have curbside pickup, and if it is a larger facility, they'll have 2 or 3 green cans out there, but then they'll also have piles of trash there. And it seems like our trash company will pick it up. They're very good, but it shouldn't be something that would be a permanent basis. That's why I kind of wondered if you could remove your own trash, if you don't want to have a
So you mean
dumpster.
we take our trash to the dump and that way? Or do we take it and put it in somebody else's dumpster?
The rack? No. I don't know. I guess that's the only 2 options. It would be either a dumpster or curbside pickup.
What are your developments that you've previously done do? How do they do it?
No dumpster.
So how do you get rid of your trash?
Oh, we pull it just like a residence. We pull it out and waste management comes out or
So have
GFL.
you been in touch with the trash collected? I mean,
Not here in Romulus, not in
Okay.
this one, yeah.
so maybe we can do that, have them get in touch with them and see what they do at that location, if they will come
Call
and pick
Waste
it up.
Management, see if you can schedule
Okay.
pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it
can
on
put
their
them
route.
route. Maybe they can put them on their route, like they come
Right.
every Monday or every Tuesday or whatever, and they put the trash out. That might be something.
We have residential service. Now, I don't know how that works with businesses. That's something you'll have to clarify through their business offices.
So in my experience, in my facility, we have a residential rollout, and it's a normal garbage day as a residence. and it's just no difference. If there's an area, if there's a company in the area, I don't see why they wouldn't want to pick up a little more business. But if it is something that we can't do on a permanent basis, then we'll do whatever it takes to eliminate our trash.
And I think we can get it easily resolved during, they've got to revise anyway, so
Right.
Yeah, we'll
just
call.
contact the carrier
Absolutely.
and see what they're going to do and.
Sure.
let-
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What else were we?
I think that's it.
Pardon me? That's it, right?
I think it's it.
That's it. Barrett says they have to go to the BZA for those. And you're not allowing any outdoor storage like RVs or boats or, actually you don't have room.
Yeah, and I think it's against the ordinance, if I'm not mistaken.
You can come in and request that. I don't know if your site's got room.
Yeah.
There are some sites in the city that do have it. They have both. As
Well,
long
I
as-
mean, if it were something that we can do, I mean, if we were to build this in phases, we wouldn't mind using the extra.
So what you would probably do if you were building it in phases, that would be, that you would have to go through the formal temporary use approval and do it temporary, or come and have the site plan amended. However, but we can work through that.
Now, are you required to have fire suppression in any of those buildings? You're not required?
No. Actually, we, during the fire department review, there were specific requirements with signage for interior, signage, lighting, fire extinguishers, and maybe a couple of other items, because there is no fire suppression. So we did comply with all of those items.
So the fire department is saying you don't have to have
Correct.
suppression, okay? Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair. Yes, to the, do you have any idea if you will be storing automobiles there at all? You know, like classic cars or anything, or?
Yes.
And then we'll be going into the electric car industry too, so without fire suppression, and then you're talking about a lot of heat in those units too, along with that. So what do you,
So our policy will require any vehicles with a combustible engine to be drained of any fuel. And that would be our rule. So technically, our policy also states that we're not supposed to allow vehicles. So our policy will say that we're not allowed to store vehicles. If it is, it has to be drained of flammable liquids, gasoline. I don't know how many people enforce that. I mean, as a storage facility, it's just hard to, go around and dip everybody's oil, gas tank. All we can do is put it in the policy. I mean, there's nothing we can do to enforce something like that. I can tell you from my experience that we do have vehicles stored in our units, whether it be in the heat or in the cold, we never have any issues.
well, and most car owners, they're not gonna empty their tanks. I can tell you that now. They're not gonna empty them because of the rust. They're not gonna empty the fuel tanks. That's not gonna happen. And like I said, with the battery, that lithium or whatever they're using for the battery-powered vehicles, that's something that you should be considering, with the fire suppression. The EV, yeah, the EV vehicles.
Catch fires, so we can
Yeah, and heat is not their friend, so,
Right. I would personally not feel very comfortable in storing any type of electric vehicle in any of these units. So that would be something that we would have to put in the policies.
Put in the policy, yes.
That'd be good language to include.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You protect your own interest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's such a new thing that facilities don't have that in their policy, they should.
Yeah.
In addition to whatever the rental agreement is going to be in their policy during the fire department review, we did also have to indicate on the site plans that all of the tanks had to be emptied and specific vehicle storage requirements that would satisfy the fire department.
Yeah. At least you have it in there. They violate it, that's on them if something happens, but at least it'll be in your policies. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, a motion is in order.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. McNally?
make the motion to approve SPR 2022-017 Romulus Self-Storage located at 37, conditional approval, 37270 North Line Road, subject to the 7 items listed. Now, do I need to revise item 6 to include, including fire department circulation?
We've got, under number 3, we put it in there just as resolution of the site circulation.
Okay, so that could be left alone.
Yeah, we really wanted that one, that's an important one, so we wanted that to pop out.
Okay, so then subject to the 7 items listed.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. McAnally, supported by Mr. Frederick, for to grant conditional approval for SPR 2022-017 Romulus Self-Storage at 37270 North Line Road, subject to the 7 items listed on page 7 of the planner's report dated July 3rd, 2023. Any discussion? Mr. McAnally?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Bombadil?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
Mr. Krova?
Yes?
Did I get you, Mr. Rocco?
No, you didn't. Yes.
Chair votes yes. The motion is conditionally approved.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
I've done about a dozen under in Brighton, in Novi, and South Line. We put the sewer and water. Oakland County standard was a little higher. We put water. Fire suppression.
Okay.
We also put dumpster pads. Some of the dumpster pads in there have hot water, so they can wash it down in case there was any mess there. I did the sewer and water, I guess. Hot water. Again,
Okay.
out there in the middle of South Line, it's built up now more than it used to be, but that's what they required.
Oh, that's a self-storage facility. Alrighty. This one is off.
We got one over at Beverly at Middleborough. I wasn't gonna name it by name. I go by that. There's garbage laying out there.
Next, we have SPR 2022-031, Alley Collision, requesting approval for its construction of 11,800 square foot collision shop, auto repair, and used car dealership at 28190 North Line Road. Petitioner is here. Would you like to give us your name and address for the record?
Sure.
And then comments
Sure.
about the project.
I don't know. Yeah. She's gonna.
I was texting him, but he came up. Good job, Mike, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Abbas with Luna Construction Company, and I have.
Speak into the microphone, please.
I'm sorry.
Speak into the microphone.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Alan Abbas with Luna Construction Company, and I have with me Mr. Hussein Ali.
And I'll be the property owner.
What we have here is proposed site for a collision and used car dealership. On this site, consists of a floor floor plan of about 9,000 square feet, plus about 2,280 square feet of office space, 2,600 square feet of mezzanine. The site will have an underground detention system. We have satisfied the landscape requirements, or at least the landscape belt around the site. We do have a dumpster and a dumpster enclosure in the back of the property. It consists, the parking requirements are met. We have 32 parking spaces in the back, about 16 parking spaces in the front of the property. We have a few comments. We also have a combination of a screen/fence along the property from the back side of the building all the way around. We've read the comments from OHM and the city, and we believe definitely we can meet them. We hope for your approval tonight. And one comment that I have regarding as far as the elevation of the building, it consists of split face masonry, 8-inch split face masonry block of two colors, the light color and the darker color, very complementary to what you have next to this building. You have a brand new building that went up next to it. This building will be very complementary in color. You have the same product. You have another building right across down the street from it. Same thing. You have a very complementary colors, which has the split face masonry. So we're using the same product on this building too. It will have, as you see, overhead doors for the entering and exiting of these vehicles. Like I mentioned, we'll have an underground detention system. We do have a proposed fire hydrant at the site. And the one comment I believe was addressed in the OHM letter regarding the width of the drive being 22 feet. We're going to make it a one, that's what was addressed, a one-way, so it will satisfy the 20 feet requirement for one way. So that way that can be taken out from the approval. So we're not asking for a waiver on the 22 feet. It's the front of the property is 120, so it does comply with your minimum 100-foot requirement frontage for this used car dealership / collision shop. And we're here to answer any questions or any comments you may have. I have the owner here in case you have any questions.
Do you have the site plan sheet?
Yeah, it should be. We're trying.
Is the clicker working?
It's not working. Here it is. No, that's the floor plan, so here's the site plan. Right
So the front parking, you're gonna reconfigure that, so you've got 10-foot spaces.
Yes.
And then 20-foot one-way, so you go in
Circulation.
and up and around.
Yeah, that will be addressed for the circulation.
You good with that?
Yes. Actually, we would like to keep the 20, I think you have 22 or 24 foot between the parking bays. That's going to remain,
Yeah,
correct?
that's going to remain.
It's just
That's
that
gonna remain.
one-way,
Yeah.
you're going to be one-way circulation on the north
Yeah.
and the south side.
Because,
Yeah.
that will remain. Okay. And we do have, as you noticed, the dumpster enclosure is in the back along with the gate. The back side of the property will have a fence rather than a screen wall, because that's a one property.
And have you talked to the property owner on the other side that we talked about?
Regarding the
where
gravel
is?
that's encroaching, I think we're gonna address that in it says it in the permitting.
You haven't talked to him yet, though?
We hired them, we gotta talk to them about this.
We're gonna be good neighbors. Yeah, we're gonna address it. I see the encroachment of the couple of feet of gravel from their side.
Are you all set?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Sure, I would like to just point out a couple of the items in our letter. The waiver for the driveway spacing, we do support this. They are centering the driveway, and they are not making one way or the other worse off. They, the narrowness, sorry, of the site doesn't allow them to space their driveway any other, within the requirements of the ordinance. So, the placement is per multiple discussions. There is grading that we believe will need to occur along the property lines. That grading can be detailed out during the engineering review, but again, that may require conversations with their adjacent property
Yeah.
owners. The two-way traffic, we talked about, that's going to get changed to one-way for both drive aisles on the north and the south side. And am I saying, is it north and south or east and west? We have a- East and west, sorry. Yep.
East and west.
Wrong one. So east and west, the east and the west side are both going to be one-way drive aisles. The last item that we would like clarification on is the building elevations do not show a glass garage door in the showroom area. So if the applicant can state whether or not that'll be a glass garage door. And the other item that was brought up is making sure that there are adequate turning movements to bring the display vehicles into the showroom area.
Yes, so in the showroom, there will be glass garage doors.
Okay.
So we will change that in the,
You're talking about
Yeah, in the
your-
shop- in
your
the-
overhead door.
yes.
Yeah.
So it just needs to be detailed on the
Yes,
plan.
Yeah.
it will be.
Yep.
Will be detailed in the permit drawings, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, and I believe the 20-foot driveway should be plenty enough room to get a regular vehicle in and out.
Okay. It's a 9-foot garage door, right?
It is a
10.
10.
10 foot?
Yeah. All the garage doors are 10.
It should be adequate. It's in their best interest to make sure it's going to work.
Absolutely.
So how many cars will you have inside the building, the sales floor?
In the showroom, there will be maximum of 4 vehicles.
I'm sorry?
4 vehicles
4 on,
in the showroom, yes.
right, okay. Where are you getting your vehicles from? Are you going to auctions to buy them?
Yes, so
And then
there's-
bring them and fix them up and sell them?
Not in all cases, but sure, yes. Some of the cases, we will be buying them from auction. They will be unloaded in the back of the building, and all vehicles that are being repaired will be stored inside. Only display vehicles or vehicles for sale will be in the parking lots. So any vehicle awaiting repair would be most likely under the mezzanine or in operating areas as like the frame machine or a vehicle list.
In your collision shop, will you be getting parts from other cars that have been damaged or whatever to repair the,
No, usually we will purchase parts directly from the dealer, and they will have delivery.
so it would be like, almost like an insurance deal or something?
Yes.
Where someone comes in and you fix their car?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Blount?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Now, this is a collision shop and a dealership, so you won't be in the business of selling parts or anything like
No,
that?
nothing like that. No.
No selling parts.
No selling parts?
No selling parts.
No salvaging parts?
No, nothing like that.
That's all, Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you for getting that on the record.
It was in the comments.
We always talk to, this is a pretty typical use for us, and particularly with reoccupancies, and there is a distinction. Mr. Long, you're 100% right, that goes in an MT district. And so we always make sure that before people are getting, they realize they can't salvage or auto recycle or sell used parts. So thanks for getting that on the record.
Mr. McAnally?
So this is a collision shop and a used car sales shop,
Yes, sir.
but I don't see anything here for signs. There's going to be no signage whatsoever on your building?
No, I mean, there will be of the name on the front of the building, as well as the address.
Usually with the signage package, it's a separate package for permitting that we will have to approve.
Yeah, because they have to.
But it's not going to be a freestanding, because usually we'll get a detail on the drawings.
If it's there, you guys aren't gonna have a freestanding, and it'll be on the
It will
building.
be on the building.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Corlett?
Through the chair, I see you have a T-shaped property. You have a lot of property in the rear.
Yes, there is.
What's your intentions for that property?
Nothing at this point in time.
Okay, so you're not going to start parking vehicles back there?
No. In fact, we propose a fence, and it's going to remain wooded area.
It's heavily wooded.
Okay, yeah, because any type of parking would generate another, back to planning, building. Thank
That's why
you.
we were happy to see the fence. We talked to them quite a bit about that, assuring that they're not going to expand back there.
It's heavily wooded area.
It is. And with our aerial mapping packages and stuff, we can see, and there's fire safety inspections that happen, there will be people on the site to see.
Right.
It becomes, as we're pointed out earlier in this evening, when people do stuff. Yes, Mr. Gladfeld, he pointed out to us today about a site that's being cleared. Stuff gets noticed right away, so.
Thank you.
So will you also have used cars for sale outside on a lot, in your lot?
Yes.
The cars that they fix.
Pardon me?
The vehicles we repair will be up for sale after vehicle inspection.
I mean, they won't all be inside.
No, not all the vehicles. will
So
be
you'll have
Yes,
some
there will be-
inside, four
Yes.
inside, you'll have other ones
Yes,
outside.
cars will be on display outside as well.
Okay. Ms. Jamison and Mr. Frederick?
Yep, this is a Carol question. So I'm looking at the pollution incident protection plan. They're going to handle that during engineering. Can you speak a little bit more on that? Because my concern is toxic waste in the ground. That property that was on E-course off at Inkster, the truck driver guy who was changing oil and transmission fluid, and it leaked into the neighboring properties, got into their soil and caused some illnesses, so a little sensitive on that.
I think you can probably describe that better, but it's all contained by the pavement and the oil water separator stuff.
Everything's gonna be paved, and then when you're
Yeah,
working on those things, there will be an oil-water separator in the
And they'll be
building.
all separated too. Yeah, the laws have changed, the rules have changed. That would have been something very old. Yeah, the rules have changed, the laws have changed. It would be an oil separator.
Unfortunately, this company actually was doing it without our knowledge. We found out when the residents complained about the contamination of their soil and the runoff coming from them, because they weren't supposed to be doing some of the things that they were doing. So just want to make sure that we keep our eyes on any kind of fluids that are toxic that can leak into anyone's properties. Thank you.
Where are you going to house vehicles that have been in accidents or whatever, damaged vehicles, to fix them? Obviously, you're not going to have, I mean, you probably will have more than what you have space for inside. Where will you park those until they're repaired?
Underneath the mezzanine inside, any dismantled vehicles that is damaged still will all be inside. No vehicle that has damage will be parked outside, especially because it will be an eyesore for customers and anyone passing by.
So if someone brings a car, gets towed in for repairs, you're going to immediately put it inside?
Yes, we won't take on any work that, if we're backed up, we won't take on any work to where we would have
Okay.
to leave something outside.
Questions, comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
No,
Frederick.
you're fine. Point of reference, The oil separator was, it's on the west side of the building in the plans, just a note.
Right.
And my question is this to the city. So the spray booth in the back here, the city has in place the controls for that? I mean, the environmental controls for that?
Yeah, we would have to, I mean, obviously for construction, we would want to see, the exact type of booth it's going to be, and we would approve that before allowing it to go in.
Just wanted to
We'll
clarify
get the
that.
specifications. that we sent.
Yep. I know there's been a lot of changes in that field in the last 10 years, let's say. All right, thank you very much.
One question.
Mr. Bobade?
Yes, how do you intend to process the waste that, some car parts that you pull out that you're not able to use? What's your standard operational procedure to recycle or process those?
Sure. In Metro Detroit, there's a local company called Usher Oil to where they'll give you a container to where what you need to separate your oil, your trans fluid, and for the paint booth, there's toxic waste that they come and manage. So all managed by one company.
Okay, I'm talking of like, maybe like the brakes, you pull out the brakes or the disc, I mean.
Right. For scrap metal, there will also be a van to where it would directly go to a dump as soon as it gets filled up. So
Okay.
nothing will be outside or in the park, or in
Okay,
the parking spot.
Very good. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
worries.
or cut you off. So my final question is, what is the maximum number of cars you would have on the sales lot?
Maximum amount would be no more than 25.
25? Okay. Good, thank you.
I think what Mr. Robade was getting to for too, like when you remove the damaged fenders and that, okay, does someone pick those up and take them away?
Yes. We'll have it, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. McAnally?
make a motion to approve SPR 2022-031, Ali Collision Shop - Used Car Dealership located at 28190 North Line Road, subject to the 5 items listed in the summary page on page 7.
Support.
I have a motion from Mr. McAnally, supported by Mr. Bobade, to approve site plan SPR 2022-031, Ali Collision Shop, Used Car Dealership at 28190 North Line Road, subject to the 5 items that are listed on the planner's report dated June 27th, page 7. Any discussion? Mr. McAnally?
Yes.
Mr. Bobade?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
Ms. Basco?
Yes.
Mr. Gladfeldy?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Crova?
Yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you so much.
It's approved.
Good luck with your project.
Okey dokey. Now. Ba-ba-bum. Next on the agenda, we have SPR 2023-012, Project Wayne. requesting site plan approval for construction of a 295,375 square foot multi-tenant office warehouse with dual side dock doors at 37685 Van Born Road. And I see the petitioner is here.
Good evening. Jim Butler with PEA Group. Address is 1849 Pond Run, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326. So subject site is located south of Van Born Road. It is approximately 35.55 acres. It is kind of conjoined with ProTrans, the building that is to the north. You see in white. There's an access drive that comes off of Van Born and kind of terminates at the the west side of ProTrans. That'll be the access for this site. The site is zoned M2, General Industrial, and is surrounded by M2 to the east, M1 to the west and south. As you mentioned, we are proposing a one building. It's 295,375 square feet for warehousing and distribution. There's 64 docks on both the north and south side of the building. We are having storage spaces for trailers, approximately 126 of those. The building is 38 feet in height, and the number of parking spaces we're providing are 204, but 64 of those spaces will be land banked. This is an image of the building. This is looking from the south back to the north, back to the south. Front parking area and truck docks to the left. This is more of a blow up the area located by the office up in front of the building. It's a precast building, precast concrete, glass, and some metal accents. Site plan does meet all the requirements for your ordinance standards, but there are 3 waivers that we are respectfully requesting. One being along Van Born Road, there is a wetland that runs through there. There's a gas mains that run through our site. We are asking for a waiver to make payment in lieu of installing that pathway or sidewalk along the south side. Very similar to the waiver that was approved for ProTrans. The second waiver is the reduction in the green belt along Van Born. Again, we have a wetland structure there, and also there are 3 high-pressure gas mains, Buckeye, Sun Oil. So we are doing the best we can in that area, but we are asking for a waiver in that regard. And then finally, a waiver for the automatic irrigation system around the detention basin. We feel that we can come up with a temporary system that'll be in place when everything is finally reached its maturity. We'll pull that system out and it can self-sustain. So with that, I have representatives from the ownership and the contractor. If you have any questions of me, I'd certainly answer.
Thank you. Do either one of you have any questions or comments before we begin?
I can go over the highlights in our letter.
Okay.
The 3 waiver requests are discussed in our letter. We do support all 3 of them. There is additional information that needs to be added, but that can be done in administrative review on the cover sheet. The other major item in our letter is the discussion of the traffic impact study and the trips that will be generated by this site. It's our understanding that that traffic impact study has been started by the developer's engineer, and we are going to have the opportunity to review that. In looking at this intersection with, the site driveway with our traffic engineers, we do feel that there may be some off-site mitigations that will come from that traffic impact study. Those mitigations might be in the realm of a right turn decel lane for the eastbound traffic, increasing the left turn storage for the westbound traffic, and possibly installing a dedicated left turn phase in the for the traffic signal. So those items, the developer has agreed to install any items that do come out of the traffic impact study at their own cost. We just don't know the magnitude of what those might be yet.
Okay. The construction is affecting some of this? The road, no, not there.
The, well, the ProTrans, they're going to be utilizing the same drive approach
right.
as ProTrans. So they're adding additional volume to that drive approach.
Okay. Do you have any possible tenants at this time, or is this, no?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any tenants lined up?
No, not at
time?
this point, no.
Are you looking for one, or you prefer multiple, or whatever you can
The
get?
building's kind of set up for two.
Okay.
It's kind of split if you look the way the parking
Right.
fields are set up.
Right.
On the, I'm sorry, the plan now got turned, I apologize. North is to the left. If you look on the east side of the building, there's a parking field there.
Okay.
And if you look at the south, but northwest corner, there's another parking field. So it kind of sets up for potentially.
So pretty
two.
much access is going to be the same on the two
Correct.
sides?
And there's full circulation around the entire building.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Anybody?
I got a comment.
Mr. Gladfeldy?
To the chair, I was out to the site yesterday. Are you going to share that detention pond out by Van Born Road with ProTrans, or is that something different?
We will have a detention basin on our south end. We are not using the one for ProTrans. That's their basin.
They're going to need to make some repairs to it. Thank you.
Did you have something, Mr. Frederick?
Yes, just through the chair. So on page 6 of the planner's report, it's called out that there's two different numbers for the trees to be removed, 377 or 465, which is correct?
Is that OHM's?
No, the city report,
Oh, okay.
page 6. Under natural features, B, woodlands.
There were just two different numbers, Jim.
Yeah, I just wanted to see clarification on that.
Yep, on page L1, under replacement trees, it says, in the first section, it said 377 removed, but then down in the bubble, when it got updated, it says required, 841 trees on site, 465 to be removed, which that calculated at 45% of original canopy. So I think probably what happened is when it got updated, the number just got carried over or something. So it's probably that 465, since that was updated. 465 since it was updated, so, yeah.
You are correct.
So 465 is the correct number?
Sounds like it, yep.
Okay. Just wanted to pin that one down. And so, I had a question about traffic impact, but Jessica, you explained that very well. The traffic light on Van Born Road, its hours of operation aren't like 24 hours. I can't remember what it was called out there. But I know that's county, correct, or is that?
Correct. If they want to change the timing, that would also be a potential mitigation in the traffic impact study, and they would have to submit for a timing permit change to the county.
Okay, I know that's shared with Ford.
Right.
Yeah, and they're pretty much only during their shift changes and such. But this is the different need on the south side.
Correct. Well, until they know who is in the building, they don't really know what the need is yet either.
Gotcha. I just wanted to bring it to attention that that was in the report. I can't remember exactly where. But just that we put eyes on that. All right, thank you very much.
And the hours of operation will be determined by whoever the tenant is?
Correct.
Through the chair, I mean, this may not necessarily have anything to do much with the project, but do you plan on having like charging stations in the parking lot for the office staff, to plug their cars when they come to work? or
We
something?
don't have it in the plans right now.
Okay.
But, you know, it's going to be becoming a thing, right?
Yeah,
The more and more
of
you're seeing
course,
that.
you know, it's, again, it doesn't have anything to do with it.
Right,
I'm
and it
just,
also may be dictated by the tenant as well.
Okay.
I know we're seeing a lot more of that being requested by tenants in buildings.
and then the other question, of course, again, it doesn't have much to do with anything. Is it, do you have plans to put maybe like solar panels on the roof or something? I mean, again.
Not at this point.
Not at this point. It doesn't have,
That's it.
Thank you.
that's it.
Mr. McAnally?
Yes. I want to go back to the traffic impact study. Will that be conducted after tenants have been identified or somewhere in the middle? I mean, it's kind of hard to do that unless you know what the use is.
The way we've been handling things, actually, we're waiting on a few of them to come in right now. North Point, for example, you've seen a traffic impact study as part of that approval. Now that tenants are coming, they're doing comparisons. And Julie Kroll is it on one of these? Where she did the little chart, where's another plan we've seen so many.
I think we discussed it in last meeting a little bit.
Where she'll put put that little chart of the change based on the tenant right on there. So it goes to OHM, they take a look at it. It's exactly what's happening with Sheets right now.
Yeah.
So we're waiting on that input to come in. The difference between Royal Farms that had a gas station and a car wash to gas station and a drive-through. So they have to get us the change, and then OHM will review it and comment.
Okay, my only thought was a traffic impact study today, traffic volume, we're taking on E-course road traffic, we're taking on a lot of variables you may not have in 6 to 8 months. Plus you have tenants, so I just want to make sure we get the right study.
Well, and I think we put the condition in that you want it during engineering, right?
Right, we want to at least see it during engineering. And with ITE, there's an ability to understand what the magnitude might be. So it's taking maybe the highest and best use, what they're ideally looking for there. And then, like Carol said, when they reoccupy or when they have an occupant, there's going to be a reoccupancy application. And at that time, we ask for a trip generation for that occupant in particular. So it still is a good idea to get this preliminary with a magnitude of a change to understand what might come. So we don't have any major cost issues coming out of it.
Okay.
That's actually item 2 in the summary. The traffic impact.
So they did the trip generation that shows the trigger that it exceeds, so it's
Correct.
gonna require this. So do we wanna change this word prior to engineering or during engineering, or when do you want it?
What page are you on?
I'm on the planning report, it's just a
Page 6.
condition number 2, page 6, right here. See, I put prior, but I'm not sure if I took that from your letter or not. Traffic mitigation.
If planning commission's comfortable not seeing the traffic impact study and just having it completely administratively reviewed prior to, or during the engineering process is okay. If you are looking for a report out, I mean, that's something we can even provide if they're in the engineering process, so you understand what the improvements will be.
Well, I think everybody's kind of interested in what the study shows. I'm certain we're looking to take action on this tonight. But down the road, we're going to probably want to see what this study shows.
Right, with the results.
Because we may, I don't know what that could generate down the road. We may have to look at this again, won't we?
Well,
I mean, could that generate something that we'd have to relook at?
The mitigation items that may come up are not going to change anything on site. There's potentially more pavement out on E-course or
Van
Van
Born.
Born, sorry, thank you. Out on Van Born, and there might be like the removal or relocation of one of the traffic signal poles because of the new pavement that might be necessary. None of that's going to affect anything on the site.
Okay, that's good.
So then, where in both reports it says prior to engineering, can we change that to during engineering?
During engineering is
During.
fine.
Okay.
Chair, I did find where it was on the chief of police, Thanos, through Lieutenant Miller, he said, this driveway does not have a this driveway does have a traffic signal, but he does not believe it to be fully utilized at all hours. Ideally, a traffic study and more detailed information about the proposed operation would be available for review before moving forward. It's the last page of the report. I knew I found it.
Sounds good. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Crowell?
Through the chair, I have a question for petitioner. You're asking for a waiver because, for the sidewalk. You said it was also because of the Buckeye pipeline, a high-pressure pipeline through there. Is that part of the reason?
Yeah.
Okay, now if you have to put in the right turn deceleration lane, will that pipeline affect that lane where it wouldn't be able to be built?
Well, the pipeline runs diagonally through the site, kind of a
Okay.
odd angle.
You would still be able to put in that right turn lane?
For sure, because it's running perpendicular to it, not parallel.
No.
Running north and south.
Okay. Yeah, because it would help. That would help with that traffic on Van Born Road. And I would like to see something like that put in, the right turn deceleration lane. I guess it depends on the traffic study.
Traffic study's going to tell us what to do.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do have a question in regards to the waiver for the sidewalk. Is the reason for the waiver is just for the safety of the pedestrians with the truck traffic, or just you don't see the need for it? I mean,
Well, there was a waiver that was granted for ProTrans. They don't have a sidewalk that's in there.
Right.
We have a wetland structure we'd have to cross and destroy to put that sidewalk in. So that's why we're asking for a waiver.
thank you.
And we do have 2 compactors. Trash is a big item. this
Any other
evening.
questions or comments?
Thank you. And they're fully screened.
And if I may, through the chair, in regards to the comment about the sidewalk waiver, a lot of times what we do find are the Buckeye and the gas pipelines, they do have enough clearance and depth through the roadway. They almost, as soon as they can, they come back up closer to the surface, so we don't want to take any of the vertical clearance off those pipelines in
Right.
order to do any install on the sidewalk.
Understandable.
Right, makes sense.
Sold me.
Yep. I guess a motion is in order if there's no more questions.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. McAnally?
I'll recommend site plan approval for SPR 2023-012 Project Wayne, located at 37685 Van Born Road, subject to the 8 items listed, noting that a conditional site plan approval, subject to the 8 items listed, noting that the 3 waiver requests were supported by the engineering, and item 2, changing the word to during engineering approval under traffic impact study.
Support.
Who's supporting it?
Mr. Long.
Mr. Long? Motion from Mr. McAnally, supported by Mr. Long, to recommend conditional approval. Or actually, to give conditional approval of site plan SBR 2023-012 Project Wayne at 37685 Van Born Road, subject to the 8 items that are listed on page 6 and 7 of the planner's report dated June 29th, and with the addition of the change in wording.
Item 2,
Item 2, right,
to during.
to do it
engineering
during,
improvement.
right. Any discussion? Mr. McAnally,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Ms. Jamison,
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. Gladfelty,
Yes.
Mr. Bovade,
Yes.
Mr. Krova,
Yes.
Mr. Frederick,
Yes.
Chair votes yes, conditionally approved.
Thank you
Good
so
luck,
much.
gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Been a while since we've seen you. Thank you.
We're not done yet.
Close.
I was gonna stand up and walk. Item 9, PC cases involving advice or input from the planning commission. No.
No?
Reports of interest designation? Mrs. Roscoe?
I don't have anything tonight.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair, I actually do.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep. So, for the commissioners, but also Carol. So, talking about EV chargers, I think if we're looking at those, because I know we've talked to some of the other past petitioners about it, we probably need to do some research, because not...
We are doing a ton of research.
Good, because not all EV chargers are the same. I was in Vegas, and they ran out of cars, and we ended up with the electric car. And they said, don't worry about it, there's plenty of chargers. We spent 2 days till we got down to 2%. And my cousin, because I have family there, so my cousin finally found one. The problem was, they have EV chargers that you could go, usually long lines to wait for them. But some of them, the first one we found, it said 48 hours to full charge because it had low voltage. And so that's the problem, is that they have all these EV chargers around there, but you got to park your vehicle and leave it. So I think the next one we found, it was 18 hours to charge. And so we would, because we didn't want to spend our vacation time parked. But my cousin finally found one, and I think in 45 minutes, we got 100% charge, and we were down at 2%. But we drove all over downtown Vegas and trying to find them, and then there's like just 2 or 3 here and there, and the problem is that Tesla owns so many of them, and they're restricted to who can use them. Harley Davidson had some, they were restricted to who could use them there. So if we do go that route, we're looking at EV chargers that can be used by any EV car. The plugins that you have, they have like 3 different types, and there's one that's kind of like universal, you could fit any kind of one in there. So when we have people that start talking about installing those, we want to make sure it's one that's fast charging, and sometimes you got to pay, because we paid, I didn't care, we were 2%. We're about to run out of electricity. But also that the vehicle we had, it was able to take 2 different types of chargers. And so, though actually I videotaped it because it was a 2-day tragedy, trying to run around and spend 2 days of our vacation. And they said, don't worry about this, plenty of them. I'm like, I've never driven an electric car. It was great though, it was quiet, didn't know it was on or off half the time. But when that charge starts going low, it's terrifying to try to find a place, because you don't know what happens when it just dies. And it was hot. It was like 1:13 the first day we were there. You don't want to be in the car because we had to turn the air off to conserve battery while we searched around for places. So it was tragic. So I wanted to make sure I brought that back, because we're going to be looking at it. I don't know how soon.
We're starting to see a lot of it. Kevin Kraus is quickly becoming the expert. He has attended so many workshops and is doing so much on his own. I think this is what he does after work hours. Every time we meet with him, doesn't he? Comes back with more info.
Oh, yeah, and I know the fast chargers, the 1-hour ones, they require so much power.
They do.
That you don't find them very many places because the supply's not there. So that's part of the problem with, around here, DTE, supplying that power to be able to do that.
We've actually had concept plan reviews with people that have EV charging stations, but they can't get the power to do it, so they're scaling back. You're gonna be seeing and hearing about some stuff, I'm guessing in the next few months. And perhaps we'll invite Mr. Kraus. I know you guys like guest appearances. He can come and maybe, and it would be good. It would be great education for all of us.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to make a little comment about that. At the Metro Airport employee lot off Eureka Road, we have 2 facilities where they can charge 4 cars at each one.
Yeah.
What's going on over there? You leave your car, you go to jump on your plane and take off.
Yep.
Somebody else was pulling in, unplugging the charger, plugging their car in. So it got to be such a problem. Initially, we put what was called cattle gates. They're typically used to control people. That didn't work. Now I've moved these 3,500-pound concrete barriers tight on both sides, so you can't move that to plug your car in. But it got to be, you're gone for a week or 2 or a day, you come back and your car is unplugged.
Oh, wow.
So that's what we've done at this point to help control it. It's not the final answer, but it's working.
But should you be allowed to just leave your car for 4 or 5 days when it's a charge?
I will tell you that we didn't pay for those chargers. They were donated and we're trying them for free. Yeah.
So Carol, one of the other experiences we had is just what Jerry said. So we went to a university because they had some there. Well, apparently a student parked his car there to the point where he had 2 tickets already, but it didn't change him from, and they said they do it all the time. My husband was desperate, so he did. He went, he took the charger, yeah, because it said it was full, and then he tried to back our vehicle up to the point where he could stretch, and it didn't get quite far enough. Because he was like, well, shoot, I'm just going to park in front of him because he's not coming back anyway. We flagged down one of the parking lot guys, and he said, yep, we don't know where that guy is, but he's not the only one who does it. And so I told you, when you get to 2%, you get a little desperate. And so we were trying to find places where they were full, and people just left them there. My husband was like, I'm going to take it, and I'm thinking, okay, let's see how this goes. But it was quite traumatic, but... So there are a lot of things that can be done to make sure we can kind of avoid some of those things like what he's saying.
And, that's why I brought up the issue of the solar panel, because these things will start consuming more and more energy DT right now is at 85-90% capacity, and they're looking to build nuclear plants, because of what is coming online. And I'm thinking all these warehouses just have space, that they could throw solar panels or at least maybe power the building, help with charging stations. But we're headed for interesting energy times. Yeah.
We sure are.
Anyone else have anything on, are you done, Ms. Jemison? Thank you. Communication, we have our project status report. Any comments on the project status report?
I do want to, just to maybe have you pencil it in on your calendar. Next month, if we have a meeting, the one that's likely to get on, we're going to know more at the beginning of next week, is the Wayne Road gas station may be back. I had a call from their attorney today, and they really want to, we've been dealing with them for a couple of years, and it's you saw them, they came in back in January when they had diesel fuel proposed. They've taken that off. They're just right now, the site plan is just contained maybe a little bit of extra pavement, right? Yeah, but basically it's a rezoning from C1 to C3, and actually they've got a piece that's residential. So I went over everything with the attorney today about sometimes that can be kind of problematic when we don't really know what it's going to be and it's inconsistent with the master plan and all of that, but.
Wayne and where?
This is that corner of Wayne and Ecorse Road, the northeast corner that you saw back in January, the liquor store. So they want to get some direction, and so we'll know. We're going to meet with them on Tuesday next week, and if they've got something, or if they want to, it's their choice to come in with anything from either a straight rezoning or conditional rezoning that's got a detailed plan with it. It'll kind of be their call as to how they want to sell you guys on it and what they provide. So that's really about the only case that may be ready for August. I don't think any of the others that we've got are going to be ready unless they get submitted tomorrow and they're perfect. So stay tuned. We'll let you know as soon as we know. I know it's summer. We might have other things to do.
All righty. Any other comments? No? Item 12 is adjournment.
So moved, Madam Chair.
How many people moved it?
Half table.
Half the table? This side moved it and this side seconded it.
Mr. Long supported.
Mr. Long? And who wants to second it?
Support.
Support?
Yep.
All righty. Motion from Mr. Long, supported by Mr. McAnally to adjourn. Any discussion? Mr. McAnally? I'm sorry, Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. McAnally?
Yes.
Ms. Jamison?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Krova?
Yes.
Mr. Frederick?
Yes.
Mr. Boboade?
Yes.
Mr. Gladfeldy?
Yes.
Is that everybody? Chair votes yes. This meeting stands adjourned.